what I really want to talk about was first, I think Andrea asked me to talk about my background. I'll make that brief because I really want to spend some time on Q&A specifically about questions that people ask, because my story is, you know, interesting, or you can read my bio on the internet, but I think it's specifically people come and if you want to ask questions about what your issue is or what it is that you're trying to resolve. So my quick background is I had a child in college. I was born and raised in the Philippines, came here for college, and I got pregnant in college at Mount Holyoke. And I remember my friends look at me saying, "Are you sure you want to keep the baby?" I said, "Yes, I want to keep the baby and I keep the guy." So I've been married to the same guy for 18 years, and we also had another unplanned child in grad school. But the reason I share this story, yeah, I'd like to plan my next one, but maybe that won't happen. But the reason I share that story is because I've been struggling with a care issue, and that's why one of the reasons I'm so passionate about the mission that I'm doing. And we're pursuing here at Care.com. So, you know, I have a child who's turning 18 very soon and applying for college. And I look younger because it was really tough. It was tough going through school, and I lucked out. I lucked out finding great care for my son. I didn't even know anything about licensing or accreditation. I just found a daycare near my apartment, and at the time I took classes at Smith College because Mount Holyoke didn't, I think you guys remember South Hadley had burned down, and so I couldn't live across campus to go to school, and so I had to actually live in Northampton and commute, and I had to learn to drive stick shift in the snow and drive and get to my son to daycare, and it was so hectic. It was just very stressful. It was very difficult during that time, and I just didn't really think about the quality of care. I just kind of jumped into saying, I just need help. I just need to get to class. I need to pick up my son, and I just need to study. So I can't say that I was like the most fabulous young mom because I didn't really look into quality and all that. But I lucked out that my child is, and Ryan today, and some of you know him, turned out, you know, pretty okay. So then right after that, I decided to do, I had gotten into law school. I'm Asian American, and so Asian families, there's 6 of us, and you get designated careers. You are one's told to be a dentist, one's told to be a doctor, and I was designated to be the lawyer. And I was a smarty pants when I was a child. I read at a very young age, and everybody said, "Oh, you'd be a terrific lawyer." So, after you know, so it was my senior year at undergrad, and my husband said to my parents, because he got me pregnant, and said the right things, and said, "I will make sure she goes to law school." Said the right words at that point. He just wanted to marry me. But so he did. You know, I got into Harvard Law School, and they were kind enough to let me defer because I wasn't sure I really wanted to be a lawyer. So I decided to work at a litigation consulting firm, but I hid the fact that I had a child. I was too afraid to apply to this job and for people to judge me that I'm this young mom, and I knew the hours for analysts at a litigation consulting firm were really long, and that I wouldn't get the job offer. And I wasn't being true to myself at the time, and you know, the immaturity and all of that, and it was my first job. It was my only cold call job ever, because after that it was all through friends and network at that point, and I like got smarter about that and said, okay, I'm gonna go with people who know me. And so I took this job, and it was also another hard year, and my husband at the time was working at a nonprofit called City here in town, and we were both kind of juggling. This was just crazy life, and I remember going into a bathroom once with my son early in the morning, and my older son just had tantrums left and right, just certain personalities, you know those types, and so we were in the bathroom once, and we were trying to get ready, and he just looked at me, started kidding, and he said, "I hate you. I just hate you, I hate you, I hate you," and I just remember like in tears, just going down my eyes, and I was like, oh my God, this is so very hard. I'm gonna like tear up again. But I realized that I just had to pull myself together and say, you know what, this is just a stage that I'm going through. I'm gonna get through this, and I'm gonna toughen up, and I'm gonna be the good mom. I'm gonna be the good mom, I'm gonna be around for him. I'm always not around for him, because at the time I was trying to do this litigation consulting job, and I'm trying to juggle this thing. And the reason I'm sharing this stuff is at the core of this stuff is what was driving me. I had to be the breadwinner. My husband was like social work nonprofit, graduated from Yale psychology, terrific, but he was driven to save the world. And here I am going like, what am I gonna do? I'm a young mom, I gotta fund, I gotta like fend for my family. What am I gonna do? And so that's what really drove me. At the core of it was finance. It wasn't ambition. It was the fact that I needed food on the table, I needed to pay for an apartment, and I needed to just get through this. And then of course my parents looked at me and said, okay, well, you got into Harvard Law School, are you going? Do you need help? Do you need help? You gotta go. Like, this would be the time to go. You can't like pass up Harvard. So what do you say to that? You said, okay, so I go to Harvard Law School, and I started my first year and hated it. Oh, I was like, what am I doing here? And part of the reason I hated it was not an environment that welcomed young moms. It was another one of those chop, you know, get the grade, do well in class, and here I was like, I gotta go change diapers and I gotta go home. You know, it was just not that kind of conducive environment. And then I decided something, an aha moment. I said, my parents are entrepreneurs. Like, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur. I'm like, I'm gonna go to business school. And it wasn't something that like always drove me at a young age. I always thought like I was kind of like trained to be a lawyer. And I started to realize that I took a contract law, and I said, this is interesting. You know, maybe I should. And my parents were entrepreneurs. And I think part of the reason they always encouraged us to go into profession was because they didn't want us to take the risk of being an entrepreneur, right? It was too stressful for them. And I decided to apply to Harvard Business School, and I got in. I was like, oh my God. And I only applied to one business school, and I said, oh, thankfully, maybe it was the whole mother story and like how hard life was, but I got in. I got in. I was like, oh my God, miracle. So I got in, and I loved it. I loved it. I loved it for the passion of not just the learning, but this creativity of different things and coming up with different ideas and, you know, and reading business plans and launching different things and the excitement in the air and just the debate about things, but it's also the welcome of life and just the social atmosphere of you know, this welcoming diversity of different people from different backgrounds and different ages and coming up with ideas. And I said, oh, that's terrific. So really loved that. And at that point, first year of law school was sunk cost. No, parents help pay. You're like, okay, I may as well apply for the JD MBA program. So I did. I applied for the JD MBA program. It's normally 5 years, but you have to apply for the program to do 4. I figured, oh, come on, you know, it can't be that much more difficult to do another 2 years. And I did, but I will tell you, it was the funnest 2 years because I took bankruptcy law, which I thought was really interesting. I took venture capital law. That's got me interested in venture capital space, and fell in love. And I was just like, you know, I really like this stuff, but to realize I wasn't going to go into law. I wasn't passionate about it, but I wanted to go into business. And then, as I said, I had another unplanned baby. And again, my husband now I had convinced him that he had to go to business school with me. And so he did. He did the first year of Harvard Business School with me. He graduated with me, but I was trying to convince him to kind of pursue maybe something else beyond social work. But he decided to kind of go in the educational space. So, you know, we were still trying to figure it out. But passionate about what he was doing. It really got me into encouraging me later in life about philanthropy, and he's just been the kind of compass in my life about that stuff. So anyways, I unplanned another baby, and then I had thought I had worked every summer at a management consulting firm, and that was going to help us. It was going to fund for you know, all the things that we wanted to do, and now a second baby on the way. But I decided that the travel was crazy. And I love the creativity of the job and solving things, and this is one thing that I love about both the combination of finance and business was, and also the user experience and solving different things was, you know, when you're presented with a consulting problem, it was one of the best training grounds for me in business was you're presented with a problem, and it can be anything. How many pens are there in this country? Or how many light bulbs are there? And it was like whatever, and I remember working for, we called it BUB, which was Coca-Cola. I was sent over to the Philippines one summer and said, how many bottles are there out in the inventory across the country because it's costing us too much money? I remember being very stressed out because I had just been hired for my summer job, and the next week I was to present to the CEO of the Philippines of Coca-Cola. I mean, that was how stressful. I remember crying, and my husband and my daughter, like, how am I going to do this? And I'm like trying to figure out, I got to figure this out because I'm supporting us. And that's always been the drive for me is like, well, you know, I've got to find that strength within myself, whether it's my little guy crying for me in the bathroom telling me he hates me, or I'm not feeling confident in myself about, you know, this job and saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. I ended up trying to figure it out and kind of help solve it through the creativity. But consulting, although it was great and exciting, I just couldn't be with my children. And then there was a terrific professor that I had at Harvard Business School where I took a class called Women Building Business. And she said, why don't you do a fellowship with me? You got that JD, that doctorate thing, you might not need a PhD to teach. I said, really? I said, that's great. So, and then I said, well, maybe I'll be a professor because it's something that creates that flexibility and, you know, that I have that schedule. And so I decided, you know, I taught 2 classes at Harvard Business School, and thankfully they took me, but I took